have seen it and commented back and forth with Greg Smith to get to this draft, and all we need is a vote to approve or disapprove. So I need a motion, Mary.
I motion we approve.
I approve.
So all in favor, all three of us? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, there's one gone. The second is the decision of the appeal authority on the variance request of Jason and Tammy Benson, which rejected their, or did not approve their variance request. And same condition as the other one. I need a motion to approve.
I so move.
Mary has made a motion. All in favor?
Aye. I approve.
Boom.
Do we need to? Yeah, that would be great. Just one. And Ed, if you would please send an email that says that you're in agreement and authorize the staff to sign for you on those two agreements.
Just one.
Just one copy.
That's why I like having Mary. That's all work that I ought to do. And she brought the book. Okay, Kathleen, you want to tell us what you're trying to do and why these city codes are telling you you can't?
Okay. I bought a house on Main Street and I was in fixing it up. The couple that are going to rent it have 5 little girls and they needed more bedrooms. And it had windows like this. They're just tiny windows. So they're not egress windows. I can't call them bedrooms. Of course, people can use whatever they want. Their rooms for whatever they designate. But from a moral perspective, I felt like I needed to make egress windows. So I started checking into what I would need to do in order to make them egress windows. And they needed to be 4 foot wide and 3'6" tall in order to meet code. But then I found that egress windows are, the window well has to be 3 feet. And as I looked at the code, it says that you can do 3 feet in the back of the house, but on the side, if your setbacks are 10 feet from the foundation to the edge of the lot, I could only go 2 feet. Now out the front, I did a window on the front and I did that 3 feet for the window well, but I couldn't do it in the back because when they installed the sewer, they ran the sewer pipe halfway up the wall all through the house. And so I didn't have the 4 feet for it to be an egress. Or the 4 feet for 360. So when I tried to do it on the north end, I would encroach on the setback and I'm minus 1 foot to make it legal.
And so you have it on the east side, you have a sewer line problem. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
But on the north side, we have.
It's a front yard and there's plenty of setback on there, so I could do the 3 foot. So I did the 3 foot.
On the west side.
Right.
But on the
But
north
on the north end, the setback is 10 feet and I'm right at 10 feet. Now I can't drag the house over. I can't do anything to change that. And I could have spent the extra several $1,000s to trench the whole basement put the pipe in, dig a hole outside, and find the sewer pipe, hook it up, and do my window there. But the better way was to do it on the north side, on the north end of the building.
Do you know where the septic tank is located on the floor?
No.
So if you were,
There was a septic tank at one point because
everybody had. to-
everybody had a septic tank, yeah.
I'm just wondering if that, if you started digging, if you were fine, we didn't take our septic tank out when they brought the sewer in. I
Yeah.
don't imagine anybody did.
No.
So,
My farmhouse that was built in 1957 is still on a septic tank.
right, but I'm just worried that if you start digging, it doesn't know where the septic tank is, that could also be, if it, you don't know if it's in the front yard or the backyard.
No, I have no idea where
Or
it
how
was,
close.
nor would the owner, because the owner is just a recent owner.
So,
But the reason I bring this issue up is that there are older people who are now selling their homes and moving into places that are just like the younger couples are moving into these places. And they really need to have an egress out of that basement.
So, and I've stopped today and looked, and you have, so you, that gravel drive that goes back, that's not yours, right?
It is not mine. It belongs to the tires. And I thought about doing a lot line adjustment, but then that's, I have to have an engineer to come out and do the pins again, because of course, the pins are not there.
Mhm.
And so it just added expense. It cost me $1,000 to cut those windows, as it was. And I've already done. This exercise today does me absolutely no good, because I've already put a 2-foot window in there. But I want to bring it up and get it on the record, because I know there are probably other people that need to make an egress window for their children in the basement. I would want to do that, because the only way out of that basement prior to this was past the furnace and the water heater in the hallway and up the stairs.
so that was one of my questions. So if second, you've got one window with an egress window in the basement.
Right.
Scarlett, what code as to how many you have to have in the basement? I mean, what's defined as livable space?
It's in each room.
I'm not a building official by any means, but my understanding is,
Because I tried looking it up.
my understanding is as long as it's not a bedroom, that if it's going to be classified as a bedroom, it has to have an egress window. I don't think there's anything else other than one access up out of that basement, but I don't know. But if you're going to have it as a bedroom, you have to have an egress window. If it's not a bedroom, they don't make you put it in.
It sounds to me like something that the city council should fix.
Well, if code is 3 feet,
And we only allow two.
and you only allow 2, why would I even want to do that?
That's my other question. Our code calls not free.
Right. You can do 3 feet is code, so that a big firefighter,
Yeah.
with all their equipment, can get down in the window well and get in.
Right.
Now, I have a 2-foot, and if you drive by and go look at the north end of the building, the 2-foot, in actuality, a child, unless they're a tiny child, can get into that window well and get out. They don't even, I bought a ladder to put in, but you don't even need a ladder, because it sticks out of the ground enough that a child can get out of there.
Mhm.
I drove that.
So it's an issue, and if we want people to get permits to do this kind of building out in their basement, and if we want them to have a safe way to get to egress out of there, then 3 feet is code.
Can I
Yeah.
clarify something? Providence City doesn't say that you should put a 3-foot window well in. We just say a window well cannot project more than 24 inches into the setback. new builds, because you never know what kind of a window well they're going to put in. And so some people's window well would project 5 feet into the setback if the way they want to
If
design.
they do a
and
rock
utilize.
feature.
Right, and so we're not prohibiting anybody from, on new builds, from putting in a 3-foot window well or bigger. We're just saying it can only project into the setback 2 feet. Problem is with an existing home that didn't have that rule in the beginning, then now with retrofitting, window wells have to be 36 inches, and we still have the same rule for new construction for a retrofit. That's where the disconnect on it kind of is.
Well, what about, so she's gonna be using this as a rental property, but does it not have to be current code?
I mean, she advertises it.
Only if I tell them it's a bedroom.
Or does it go- Because,
They could use it as a bedroom if they want.
okay,
There's a closet in it.
no,
But I can't say, "Now, that's gonna hurt me when I go to sell the house because I can't call that a bedroom."
right, but, and I was having a hard time. Diane sent me what the city, talked to the fire marshal. All. Diane?
Diane's in the other room.
Yes, I'm here.
So,
Oh, Michigan.
Yes.
And he said that it has to be a minimum of 3 feet away from the house and 3 feet the firemen can get in and out. But that's not our code, so which code takes precedent? The IRC fire code?
No, our code is not telling you you
Do you want to
can't.
get it?
Our code is telling you you can only extend a window well 24 inches. Our code isn't saying don't have a 36-inch window. Well, our code is saying build your house so that you can have at least enough
So
room.
it's at least
so you can-
11 foot.
Yeah,
It has to have a setback of 11 feet.
if you're going to have a window on that, a bedroom window on that side of the property. That's the way our code is.
Because I'm looking, and I don't know if Providence follows the IRC residential code. It seems to be what most places do.
yes, it would follow the IRC.
We do.
Because it says if you have a basement that has a bedroom, rec room, den, family room, media room, office or home gym, all of these rooms are required to have a egress.
Correct.
Right, yeah, under current construction.
So, but I guess it goes back to my question, do you just need one, or do you need one for each of those separate rooms she has in the basement, or?
That's really a building permit question, but tell me how that relates to her her application.
Well, in her diagram, she's got more separate rooms that I assume are livable space, or rec rooms or family rooms.
So she has
I don't know, I'm asking.
she has this bedroom here
Uh-huh.
with the proposed egress
Right.
window, which she has built.
Which is there now.
She has a room back here labeled a bedroom, which is not a bedroom.
Yeah.
It cannot be sold nor advertised as a bedroom because it doesn't have
A 3-foot
a
egress.
3-foot egress. So it cannot be called a bedroom. This here, I'm not sure what that is.
What?
The big room down here.
Oh, that's, yeah.
So at that point, doesn't appear that it has an egress. But at this point, if she's not calling it a bedroom, she doesn't have to put one in to call it a bedroom because she's not going to call it that.
Okay, but
On current construction, could it be required if this house were to be built today? Probably,
okay,
but it's not built today.
okay, I guess I'm trying to the line between what they used to do, what you have to do, and what's that.
She just wants to change this from a room, storage room, whatever, however you want to classify it other than calling it a bedroom.
Right,
She is trying to classify that as a bedroom rather than a room, meeting room, whatever. And in order to call it a bedroom, it must have a 3-foot egress to do that. Now, if she bought it as such,
And there's not room to do that.
Between the foundation and the property line. Which is setback.
Brian, this seems, as I was saying, this seems the sort of thing that the city council ought to be addressing. As opposed to maybe a blank, some sort of ordinance rule for retrofitting when there are side lot issues, as opposed to coming. I certainly don't want to deal with these one after another.
It's a safety issue. I talked to my brother's fireman. I asked him, and he said, "You need to talk to the city council about, like you're saying, that, you know, in older homes, for safety purposes, then there need to be some adjustments." And it's kind of like Randy is saying that,
It's a very valid point. It's a very valid point that says, at this point, you could do that. To change the zoning one, to have something that is changed that would be a land use item would go to planning and zoning. That item was discussed briefly with planning and zoning, and some discussion there was, oh, well, maybe a variance. But that's not to say that it has to be here, because I agree, if it is good for her, what makes her unique, and a variance requires it to be unique, what in this is unique to her? And I don't mean to take Chad, because Chad was very well prepared and he can present. So I don't mean to take his time, because he is very well prepared for tonight.
I guess safety is something that I slept in a bedroom with a basement. There was a kid growing up that I could not get out because trust me, I cried.
Today you can't call that a bedroom.
Right, but
You can still sleep there, but you can't call it a bedroom.
right, so I got a problem with safety versus, yeah, right, you don't call it a bedroom, and yet
But
people will go there.
The
and
question
they will-
is this unique, and does it fit under a
Right.
variance? Because if it is not unique, and it isn't, if those conditions there are specific to a variance, if those are not met, then it's not a variance.
we
and-
can
and
make it a
your-
citywide safety problem.
And your charge is to say,
Right.
is this a variance?
Yeah.
Right, correct. It does it. Yeah, that's the question. Right.
Got more for us? Let's listen to the city attorney.
Okay.
Make his pitch. Oh, I should be up to the microphone. You can listen to the city attorney make his pitch.
It makes me sound a bit like a salesman. Ryan, is there any way I can share my screen? I have a PowerPoint I put together that might be helpful here.
Should be able to if Brian grants you authorization. Does the share screen show up at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah,
Now you should have it.
it's
Okay.
here. I think I'll be okay.
I
Let's
think I've
see.
turned it on now.
Look at that. Brian, can I come and help with my classes?
Absolutely, as long as they're only accounting.
Okay, so let me, is that feedback that I'm hearing?
We
Okay.
don't hear the feedback.
Okay, maybe it was something else. Okay. I was having a hard time hearing the board members that are at the board, except
George,
when,
you need to make sure the mic's closer.
so I missed a lot of that discussion, but I think I got the gist of it. I could hear Ryan very well, and I could hear Scarlett, and I could hear Ms. Alder, is it?
Kathleen.
Kathleen. So let me start by, I put this little PowerPoint together because I wanted to highlight something about a variance. The city's position is this is not a variance question. This is a code question. And I think you nailed it right on the head, Chairman, that this should be addressed somewhere else other than here. But I just, if you will humor me just for a second to walk through a variance request. Variances, this is the code that highlights a variance. There's 5 points on a variance that you have to meet when you ask for a variance. There's these 5 main categories that you have to hit, and anybody requesting a variance has to hit every single one of these. Not just kind of, they bear the burden of proving every single one of these things. And it's not like a balancing act where it's like, well, if they got most of them, then it works. If they didn't get most of them, then it doesn't. You know, it's every single one of these have to be proven to be in effect. It's variances that the point I'm making here is variances are incredibly hard to prove and to win. This is a kind of a more visual looking flow chart of the same thing. I'm kind of a visual person, and so I took a second and just kind of put together these items are the things that you've got to prove. And if we just kind of walk through each one of these really quickly, I'll try not to take too long. The first prong is that they need to show an unreasonable hardship. An unreasonable hardship has 2 prongs to it. It's circumstances peculiar to the property, and it's located on or associated with the property. In this case, clearly, this is located on the property, but I would argue that these circumstances are not peculiar to this property. The property is not peculiar in any way. All of the issues, there's many properties that fit this, and I think the chair mentioned that you know, he doesn't want 1 million people coming in asking for this. And this doesn't, a variance has to be peculiar in that sense. It cannot be self-imposed. This is not self-imposed. This is something that was here before Kathleen got involved. It cannot be economical. And in this case, it is pretty much an economical thing. You know, you throw enough money at moving the sewer pipe and you fix this. It's an economic issue. It might not be fair in Kathleen's opinion, but it is economical. That's unreasonable hardship. Special circumstance. Are there special circumstances here? Number one, does this relate to the hardship? Well, if there is no hardship in the first place, then nothing can relate to that, right? But I mean, arguably, her situation relates to this hardship she's complaining. But does it deprive the property of privileges granted to other properties? I would say no, it does not. Is she being deprived of stuff that other properties in the area are able to do? Not at all. Matter of fact, again, it's kind of that same argument. There's a lot of properties that have this same issue. Well, I'll finish on with that. So there's no special circumstances in my mind. Is there a substantial property right that's at question here? What is the property right that we're trying to, and I think if I understand it correctly, the right, what she would like to do is she'd have like to have the right to call a bedroom, a room, a bedroom. And I think by extension, she'd like to be able to put a 3-foot window well in there for safety issues. Is that a substantial property right? I would argue that's not a substantial property right. Substantial property rights are much more, you know, enjoying your property and doing things, and especially if it's an economical thing. She mentioned she wouldn't be able to sell her house with as many bedrooms. That's economics. Again, I'm not saying it's all fair. I'm just saying that a variance is an incredibly tough burden to meet. Public interest. This is an interesting one, and this is where I think that it's an easy decision to make. Does her request, granting this variance, would it substantially affect our general plan? I think you could argue it will definitely affect our general plan, because if you were to grant this variance, then other people are going to want the variance. But I think that it doesn't substantially affect the general plan. So I think that's an okay hurdle, but is this contrary to public interest? My argument is that it is contrary to public interest. Granting a variance here is, number one, that does not meet the requirements for it. And there's another way to deal with this. And the other way to deal with this is simply to have the law changed. So the question is it okay or safe or whatever to have a window well stick out into the setback 3 feet instead of 2? If the answer to that is yes, and if Kathleen should be granted the ability to do this, then that means that anybody and everybody should be granted it. This isn't a unique situation. Everybody should be able to build a well out 3 feet. If it's good for Kathleen, it's good for everybody. And so that's why, in my opinion, it would be against public interest. Number one, you would be granting a variance that didn't meet the requirements. And number two, it doesn't meet, or the way to fix this is another way, by basically sending the signal to the Planning and Zoning Commission that you think that this is not a variance issue, and let them deal with it on their end. Because essentially, if I understand what happened, is they kind of talked about it and they said, hey, this would be perfect for a variance. And so they put it the other way. So I think if you accept it as a variance request, it doesn't help the public interest. So back to this slide here. There's four. You can see there's 4 things on this chart that more or less Kathleen has kind of shown that that a variance might be appropriate. But as you go through and look at the red X's, it's important to know that a variance, we're not trying to weigh out how many X's and how many check marks there are here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to, if there is any red on the chart at all, the variance should not be given. If any one of these things doesn't meet the code, then the variance should not go forward. And as you can see, there's multiple things on here that at least the city feels does not meet a variance process. So the position of the city is that this just isn't a variance request. This is a code change request. And if it's good to have 3-foot window wells into the setback, that should just be a recommendation to the city council from the planning and zoning to change that. And then everybody can do it. So is there any questions for me?
No. No.
I don't have any either. That's nice.
Thank you. I hope that was helpful. And I would like feedback if you feel like this was too much screen time or too little or what. I would offline, if you want to give me some feedback on whether that was helpful, I'd appreciate it.
I would have one piece of feedback. I think we ought to be able to put this on our website and have people check and go through, and then they can not worry about applying if they already know it won't. So an interactive like this, I thought that was great.
It was very good. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Kathleen, you want to add anything to that?
No, I thought that was a good presentation, and It would have been nice before I paid my $100.
Well,
That's what you paid your $100 for.
Yeah, I paid my $100. Really, it doesn't do me any good because I've already done a 2-foot window well.
Uh-huh.
And from a moral perspective, I can feel like anybody can get out of that. If they need to get into the basement, they can go in through the 3-foot one that's on the other side of the wall. But I think it's something that we need to do as a city so that people have an egress for children who are sleeping in their basement.
is it- you want me to go?
Is there a way for us
Sure.
from? our
They can ignore us, we can recommend.
Well, yeah,
Well, the thing that makes this kind of odd is that I'm chair of planning.
that's right, I forgot.
That does make it,
So it makes
Odd.
it kind of awkward. I'm not trying to get economic gain here.
No.
All I'm trying to do is to look at a code that we have that doesn't make sense. If it's code to have it 3 feet, and if it's a house that I can't move it over, I can't do anything with it, but yet, and I happen to be able to pay to move my sewer if I need to do that.
Right,
But why, that's not the case for most people who are buying these little homes. And they deserve to have their children be safe and to meet code. So,
we can make a recommendation.
yours would be a denial, which would send it
Right.
back to planning and zoning and say, don't send these to us again.
You guys need to.
You need
pony
you
up
need to
and-
do your job, not have us do your job.
And there would be a way to make houses that will be built before this became routine.
They are
would-
charged to look at ordinances and planning, and that is upon their charge. So at this point, you could always, any citizen can make a recommendation.
Correct.
But at that point, I think the response from this body of saying no does send a clear message back, don't send these back to us because we don't believe these are variances. And if at that point, if they felt like it should be 3 foot, then they could proceed on taking that action and do their research and study going that way.
And is the reason for the 10-foot for fire access, is that why we do that?
I'm sure that there is, whether it's 10 or how that 10-foot comes. I will tell you that a 10-foot is a common one. I came from a place that was 10-foot as well. So it's not, it is common in other cities. 10-foot seems to be the common amount. Whether it's set by state somewhere, I don't know that one.
Ours was 8,
But
but no. I'm not aging as gracefully as Kathleen. So my brain cells aren't as active as hers.
well, the 3 foot doesn't extend very much further than the eave does on the house. And if it's an unobtrusive window well, just a metal window well, then it shouldn't make any difference for something, a truck to get by there. In my situation, there's a road right there and there's probably not going to be a fence. So,
What good letter would be most useful to you as chair of the planning commission?
I just think what Chad said, just send a response back that says, this, we don't feel like this is a variance issue. It doesn't meet all the criteria. So, you guys deal with it. As a
And at
code
that point-
change issue.
at that point, she could take it. It wouldn't necessarily need to be your body. It is a rejection from yours, so that if she presents, which I would recommend that she step back from being the chair and stand on this side of the diocese and present and say, I think you need to consider a change, and let them research and do that work if that's what it is. If they research and say safety requires 8 feet or 9 feet difference, and if it encroaches into that, you don't want a fire truck to fall through the window well. Or if they do their research and find out it is not safe, then let them take that on and do their work. If it is, if you believe it is an ordinance change, then reject it here and let it go back to there. They didn't bring it here, so you're not responding to them. You are
Right.
responding to Catholic.
And as chair of the planning and zoning, I didn't want it to feel like it was self-serving.
Right.
On my part. And so it needs to be, everything needs to be official, so that we can look at it and make sense of it and make whatever changes if we decide that that needs to be changed. Like I said, it doesn't impact me at this point because I've already done the input.
So there is precedent for saying, identifying an old part of town that may have these kinds of problems, saying in this section of the city or in houses built before this date or something like that, then we'll have a different rule.
But rent out by you, there are houses.
That's why you would say, I think having a date would be better.
And I would leave that then too. I would say at that point, is it safe to have that distance? And if it is, then what does it matter if it's a new house or an old house?
Oh, that's my take.
I mean,
I'm not on the planning commission.
no, right. I mean, just,
Like
if it is one or the other.
To me, 3 foot's fine.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
Maybe you could get your $100 back by talking to the city attorney about using the PowerPoint slide when you go before P and Z and you
I don't
can.
think they're gonna get my $100 actually.
No, I mean,
No.
that would be $100 thought, was PowerPoint slide demonstrating why.
That's his job, he can bring it,
Yeah,
right?
So,
why it
Chad,
needs to be going before.
is that
P&Z.
Craig?
Craig is on with us now.
Hello,
Welcome, Craig.
Can you hear us?
He's muted.
You're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I had something come up. I'm sorry I joined late, but I'm here.
So, a question that I have is, do we need to actually go into a separate session to decide, or we just have a motion now and say, I would say a motion to deny, for example?
Yeah, no, you do not have to, you have the right to deliberate in private if you want to. That's not a requirement. If somebody on the appeal authority wants to make a motion and somebody else wants to second it to take an action and it gets voted for, that is fine.
I motion that we deny.
I would suggest that we still prepare some findings on that. But those can be prepared after and this won't be final.
Prepared off Chad's PowerPoint.
Yes, they can.
That was very good, Chad.
Or-
Even though
prepare the findings.
Or you can reiterate the city's findings we've already established.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah,
You can do that too. You don't have to make your own findings. You can.
So a motion
Uphold the
to
findings.
deny based on the city's findings,
You could do that.
and then we don't have to have Craig play with the language, we can just adopt that language. And, so is that your motion?
And send
That's
it,
my motion.
and send it back to the planning.
And send it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, nope, because it doesn't get sent back because it was applied
Oh,
by
it was mine,
Kathleen. It
okay.
wasn't applied by,
Okay.
Okay.
so you can't send it back. Don't include that as your motion.
So
Okay.
Kathleen is a citizen, as a private citizen.
She made the application.
But then she can bring it.
She can do that,
before P&Z.
right.
All right,
But you're not sending it back because it's her as the applicant.
Right.
so the motion is, if I understand it correctly, the motion is to deny based on the findings of the city staff.
That's it.
All in favor of that motion?
I,
Aye.
Aye. I was gonna vote no, just so you'd have one vote, Kathleen.
So what? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
So we need a motion to adjourn.
If you're going to adjourn.
Can I, before you do that, can I make one suggestion?
Yes.
Do we have who acts as our secretary to the appeal authority?
Well, we're recording it right now. Diane prepared the agenda. I put together the staff report, and Jesse will listen to the recording and put the minutes together. So any one of the three of us could help clerically with something that you're about to ask for.
This may be probably, this is probably maybe more than we need to do, but what I would suggest that we do is have whoever, it could certainly be Scarlett, using the same format I use, prepare the written findings, just adopting or putting in the ones that were done below. And then, so we actually have a formal document. I would review that, the members of the appeal authority review that, and then to avoid having a second meeting, which we had a hard time with last time, it would be understood that upon the receiving the okay of each member of the appeal authority, that would become final and be that way we have a specific document rather than having to pull it out of the minutes of what you did. And that's, this one, it probably doesn't make that much difference, but other ones I think it does. And I think it's a good practice to follow. It will take minimal time for all of us after this meeting to just make that review. And I won't set it up, people have to physically sign it. We'll just have it set up for like an electronic signature based on your authorization.
So Craig, if we just do it as a record of decision and include what they talked about, include the agenda item, include the findings, the conclusions, their motion, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
No, you haven't.
We didn't adjourn.
You have to take this,
I assume someone would. Go ahead and put it.
so can I cross out September and October?
Okay,
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You can give that to Ed as the one who made the motion.
Kathleen,